Retirement used to be the dream. Work for 30 or 40 years, save some money, get a pension, and then live comfortably without worrying about work again. But today, that picture looks very different. For many people, retirement feels less like a guarantee and more like a luxury that only a few can afford. The question is, how many people can actually retire today without running out of money? The answer might surprise you. Across the United States, studies show that most people are not prepared for retirement. A recent survey by the Employee Benefit Research Institute found that nearly 40% of workers have less than $25,000 saved. Even more worrying, 1 in 4 workers have no retirement savings at all. When you look at the cost of living, healthcare, housing, and inflation, these numbers paint a bleak picture. Retirement is no longer about how long you've worked. It's about how much you've managed to put aside. But what does it actually take to retire? Financial experts often use a simple formula called the 4% rule. It suggests that if you withdraw 4% of your savings each year, your money should last for around 30 years. That means if you want $40,000 a year in retirement, you'd need about $1 million saved. And that's before accounting for rising healthcare costs, inflation, or unexpected emergencies. The reality is, very few households have anywhere close to that. In fact, the Federal Reserve's data shows that the median retirement savings for people aged 55 to 64, those closest to retirement, is just $134,000. Using the 4% rule, that would only provide about $5,300 a year. That's not enough to live on. Social Security helps, but the average benefit is only around $1,900 a month, or about $23,000 a year. For most people, that means retirement doesn't look like freedom. It looks like scraping by. So who can actually afford to retire? It often comes down to 2 groups: those who saved consistently for decades, and those with assets that work for them. High-income earners who put away 15–20% of their paychecks into retirement accounts are better positioned. So are people who own real estate or have investments that generate cash flow. But they're the minority. According to the National Institute on Retirement Security, nearly 40 million U.S. households have no retirement savings at all. That means millions of people will work well into their 60s and 70s simply because they can't afford to stop. This isn't just an American issue. Globally, retirement is becoming harder everywhere. In the UK, research shows that the average worker would need around $600,000 to retire comfortably, but the average savings are only a fraction of that. In Australia, where superannuation accounts are mandatory, many still fall short of the $545,000 target suggested for a comfortable retirement. Rising housing costs, medical bills, and longer lifespans mean the gap between what people have and what they need keeps growing. Part of the problem is psychology. Retirement feels far away when you're young, so people delay saving. But the cost of waiting is massive. Someone who starts saving at 25 might only need to put aside a few $100s a month to hit $1 million by retirement. Someone who starts at 40 might need to save 3 or 4 times as much. By the time many realize, it's already too late to catch up without drastic changes. Another issue is lifestyle creep. As incomes grow, so do expenses. People upgrade their homes, cars, and lifestyles instead of investing the difference. By the time they think about retirement, much of their wealth has been spent on things that don't generate income. This is why even high earners can end up unprepared. Retirement isn't just about income. It's about discipline and long-term planning. So how many people can actually retire today? The truth is, not many. Studies estimate that only about 1 in 5 Americans are truly on track for a comfortable retirement. The rest will either delay retirement, depend heavily on Social Security, or lower their standard of living. And this gap is only widening as costs rise faster than wages. But there's also a hidden side to the story. While most people can't afford retirement in the traditional sense, many are redefining what retirement means. Some choose semi-retirement, working part-time to supplement savings. Others focus on building side businesses or rental income so they can reduce their hours instead of quitting completely. Retirement doesn't have to mean stopping work altogether. For many, it now means having the freedom to choose how and when they work. If you want to be among the few who can retire comfortably, the principles are clear. Start early. Automate savings into retirement accounts. Invest in assets that grow and produce income. Avoid lifestyle creep and debt that eats into your future. And most importantly, plan for healthcare and inflation, because those 2 factors alone can make or break your retirement. The bottom line is, retirement today is not guaranteed. It's earned, and the majority of people aren't on track. But the earlier you start thinking differently about money, the more likely you'll be in the small group who can afford it. Because wealth isn't just about income. And here's the difficult truth. Most people know what they should be doing, but very few actually follow through. Saving and investing for retirement isn't a mystery. The steps are well documented. What holds people back is consistency. It's not the one-time decision to save, it's the repeated choice month after month, year after year, to prioritize the future over the present. That's where most people struggle. Think about it. Putting $500 into an investment account might not feel like much in the moment. It won't change your life today. But over time, that decision, repeated hundreds of times, can be the difference between financial freedom and working into your 70s. The small, boring habits are what create big results. Retirement planning isn't flashy. It's not about luck or timing the market or finding some secret investment. It's about patience and discipline stacked over decades. The people who end up retiring comfortably are often not the ones who earned the most. They're the ones who built systems around their money. They automated savings so they didn't have to rely on willpower. They avoided debt that ate away at their income. They lived below their means even when they could afford to spend more. Over time, those choices compound into real freedom. And it's not just about money. Retirement readiness also has a lot to do with mindset. Some people see retirement as an escape, something they can't wait to reach because they dislike their work. Others see it as a transition, a chance to shift into work they actually enjoy, even if it pays less. The second group often ends up happier because they don't pressure themselves to hit a magic number before making changes. They create flexibility along the way instead of waiting for a perfect finish line. This shift in mindset is important because the traditional idea of retirement, working nonstop for 40 years and then stopping completely, is less realistic today. People live longer, costs are higher, and industries change faster. For many, the goal shouldn't be to stop working altogether, but to build enough wealth that work becomes optional. That way, retirement isn't about leaving life behind. It's about gaining the power to design it. And here's something many people overlook. The earlier you take control, the less extreme your choices need to be. If you start in your 20s or 30s, small, consistent contributions can do most of the work for you. If you wait until your 50s, you'll either need to save aggressively, take on more investment risk, or completely rethink your lifestyle. The longer you wait, the fewer options you have. So where does that leave most people today? At a crossroads. You can continue down the path most are on, spending freely now and hoping Social Security or a late career push will fill the gap. Or you can make deliberate choices now that your future self will thank you for. It doesn't take perfection. It just takes being in the small percentage willing to plan ahead while others delay. Because the reality is this: retirement will either be your biggest financial stress or your biggest financial advantage. And the outcome depends less on how much you earn and more on how soon you take action. The good news is you don't need to overhaul your entire life overnight to start moving in the right direction. The path to a secure retirement is built on small, practical steps that you can begin today. Increasing your savings rate by even 1 to 2% makes a difference over decades. Redirecting small windfalls, a bonus, a tax refund, or even side income into investments instead of spending them can accelerate your progress. These choices might feel minor in the moment, but they quietly stack up in ways that only become obvious years later.